I never thought I'd end up here, curled up on a sagging cot in the corner of my own garage, the air thick with the smell of motor oil and damp cardboard. The house I built with my bare hands. The home where I raised my son, laughed with my husband, and buried my dreams when he passed. It looms just beyond that flimsy door, its windows glowing with warmth I can't touch. My name is Evelyn Carter, and at 68, I've learned that love can blind you to the sharpest knives. My son, Daniel, was my world. I gave him everything, every sacrifice, every late night stitching his dreams together while mine frayed at the edges. When I handed him the deed to this house 3 years ago, I thought I was giving him a future. Instead, I gave his wife, Monica, a weapon. It started small, the way betrayals often do. A comment here, a cold glance there. Monica always had a smile that didn't reach her eyes, but I told myself it was just her way. Daniel adored her, and I wanted to believe she was good for him. She moved into our family home like a queen claiming a throne, rearranging furniture, repainting walls, erasing every trace of me. I didn't mind at first. I was living in a small apartment in town, close enough to visit, far enough to give them space. But then Daniel begged me to come back. "Mom, we need you," he said, his voice cracking like it did when he was a boy. "Monica's pregnant. We want you here for the baby." I sold my apartment, gave up my quiet independence, and moved back into the house I'd given away. For a few months, it felt right. I cooked dinners, folded tiny onesies, and dreamed of rocking my grandchild to sleep. But Monica's warmth was a performance, and I was too naive to see the curtain falling. After little Emma was born, everything changed. Monica's requests turned into demands. "Evelyn, can you clean the kitchen?" Became "Evelyn, you're in the way." Daniel, caught in her orbit, stopped meeting my eyes. One night, after I'd spent hours scrubbing their dishes, Monica cornered me in the hallway. "We need your room for Emma's nursery," she said, her voice like silk over steel. "You can stay in the garage. It's cozy enough." Cozy. That word still burns. The garage was a tomb of forgotten things, rusted tools, boxes of my husband's old records, a lifetime of memories stacked against cold concrete. I protested, my voice trembling with a mix of hurt and disbelief. But Monica's eyes were unyielding. Daniel stood behind her, silent, his shoulders slumped. "It's just temporary, Mom," he mumbled. But he wouldn't look at me. That night, I dragged a cot from the attic, laid it out among the cobwebs, and cried myself to sleep under the hum of a flickering bulb. I told myself I could endure it. For Daniel. For Emma. I'd raised a son through fevers and heartbreak. I could handle a little discomfort. But Monica's cruelty grew bolder. She'd leave trays of dirty dishes outside the garage door, like I was some hired help. She'd lock the house during the day, forcing me to beg for entry to see my own granddaughter. Once, I overheard her laughing with friends, calling me the old bat in the shed. Each word was a splinter, but I swallowed my pride, thinking love would win out. I was wrong. 6 months into this exile, I found something that changed everything. While sorting through boxes in the garage, looking for a photo of Daniel as a boy, I stumbled across a letter tucked inside an old book. It was from my husband, John, written before he died. His handwriting, shaky but deliberate, spelled out a truth I'd never known. Monica had been his nurse in his final days. He'd suspected her of tampering with his medication, speeding his decline to secure her place in Daniel's life. He'd written it down, too weak to act, hoping I'd find it one day. My hands shook as I read his words, each one a spark igniting something dark inside me. I didn't sleep that night. The garage felt smaller. The shadows sharper. Monica hadn't just taken my home, she'd taken my husband. My son. My life. I wanted justice. Not just for me, but for John, whose love had built this house. I wanted her to feel the weight of what she'd done. But I wasn't a vengeful woman. Or so I thought. The next morning, I made a decision. I wouldn't confront her yet. I'd wait, watch, and plan. I'd spent decades nurturing this family. I could spend a few weeks dismantling her lies. I started small, testing the waters. I'd slip into the house when Monica was out, leaving subtle signs of my presentia: moved chair, a book left open. She'd notice, her eyes darting nervously, but she'd say nothing. I began listening, too, catching fragments of her phone calls when she thought I was asleep in the garage. She was hiding something, always whispering about the plan and the money. My son, my sweet Daniel, was blind to it, but I wasn't. I started keeping a journal, noting every word, every glance, every time she locked me out. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was building a case. One evening, as rain battered the garage roof, I sat on my cot, John's letter in one hand, my journal in the other. The bulb above flickered, casting jagged shadows. I realized I couldn't do this alone. I needed someone who could dig deeper, someone who could uncover Monica's secrets without her suspecting me. That's when I remembered Clara, an old friend from church who'd become a private investigator after her own life fell apart. Clara had a way of seeing through people, and she owed me a favor from years ago. I clutched the old rotary phone I dragged into the garage, my heart pounding. I dialed her number, my voice barely a whisper. "Clara," I said, "I need your help." Clara's voice on the other end of the line was like a lifeline thrown into the dark. "Evelyn, is that you? What's wrong?" I could hear the concern in her tone, sharp and immediate, the kind of voice that could cut through years of silence. I told her everything: John's letter, Monica's cruelty, the garage that had become my prison. I told her about the whispers I'd overheard, the way Monica's eyes glinted when she thought no one was watching. Clara listened without interrupting, her silence heavy with understanding. When I finished, she said simply, "I'm on it. Stay quiet, Evelyn. Don't let her know you're onto her." For the first time in months, I felt a spark of hope, but it was laced with fear. What if Monica found out? What if she turned Daniel against me completely? I pushed those thoughts down, focusing on the plan. Clara asked me to keep my journal updated, to document every detail, no matter how small. "Evidence," she said, "is your weapon." So I did. I wrote down the times Monica left the house, the names she mentioned in her hushed calls, the way she'd flinch when I looked at her too long. I became a shadow in my own home, invisible but always watching. Monica's behavior grew stranger. She'd pace the living room at night, her phone pressed to her ear, her voice low and urgent. I'd press my ear to the garage door, catching phrases like, "It's almost time, and he won't suspect a thing." My heart ached for Daniel, who seemed oblivious, lost in his love for her and their daughter. I wanted to shake him, to scream that his wife was a snake, but I knew he wouldn't believe me. Not yet. I had to wait for Clara's findings, for proof that would open his eyes. Days turned into weeks, and the garage grew colder as fall settled in. I'd wrap myself in an old quilt, John's letter tucked against my chest like a talisman. I started dreaming of him, his voice soft but clear, urging me to fight. "You're stronger than this, Evie," he'd say, his face fading as I woke to the damp chill of my cot. Those dreams fueled me, but they also broke me. I missed him so much it hurt to breathe. Monica had taken him from me, and now she was taking Daniel. I wouldn't let her have Emma, too. Clara called me late one night, her voice tense. Evelyn, I've got something. Can you meet me tomorrow? She told me to slip out during Monica's yoga class, the one time I knew she'd be gone for hours. I agreed, my pulse racing. The next morning, I waited until I heard her car pull away, then crept out of the garage, my joints aching from the cold. I met Clara at a diner on the edge of town, a place where no one would recognize us. She slid a folder across the table, her eyes grim. You were right to call me, she said. Inside the folder were photos, bank statements, and phone records. Monica had been siphoning money from Daniel's accounts. Small amounts at first, then larger sums. She'd been meeting with a man named Victor, someone Clara traced to a shady investment firm. There were pictures of them together. Too close. Too secretive. But the worst was a document Clara had uncovered while Monica had forged, naming herself as the sole beneficiary of the house and Daniel's assets. If anything happened to him, she'd get everything. My blood ran cold. She's planning something, Clara said. I don't know what, but it's big. I felt like I was drowning. My son was in danger, and I'd been sleeping in a garage while his wife plotted against him. I wanted to run home, confront her, tear her apart with my bare hands. But Clara grabbed my wrist, her grip firm. Not yet. Evelyn, we need more. If you go to Daniel now, he'll defend her. We need undeniable proof. She was right, but it didn't make the waiting easier. I went back to the garage, my mind spinning, my heart heavy with guilt. I'd given Daniel the house, thinking it would protect him. Instead, I'd handed Monica the keys to his destruction. That night, I couldn't sleep. The garage felt like a cage, the walls closing in. I started going through more of John's old things, looking for anything that might help. In a dusty box, I found a small key, taped to the bottom of a photo frame. It was a picture of John and me, smiling in front of the house the day we moved in. The key didn't look familiar, but something told me it was important. I hid it in my pocket, my mind racing with possibilities. Did it open something Monica didn't want me to find? Was it another piece of the puzzle? I started paying closer attention to the house itself. Monica had changed so much, but there were places she might not have touched, hidden corners, locked drawers. I remembered the old safe in the attic, one John had installed for important papers. Could the key fit that? I didn't dare check yet. Monica was too watchful, and I couldn't risk her catching me. Instead, I kept up my routine, playing the meek, broken mother-in-law while my resolve hardened. I was done being her victim. Clara and I met again a week later. She dug deeper, finding emails between Monica and Victor. They were planning to sell the house, to disappear with the money once Daniel was out of the way. The words hit me like a punch. Out of the way. My son. My boy. I saw his face as a child, his laughter as he ran through the yard, his trust in me to keep him safe. I'd failed him once by trusting Monica. I wouldn't fail him again. Clara promised to keep digging, but she warned me to be careful. She's dangerous. Evelyn, don't underestimate her. I nodded, but inside, I was already planning my next move. The key in my pocket felt heavier, like a promise I was ready to keep. The key burned a hole in my pocket, a constant reminder that I was running out of time. Every night, as the garage grew colder and the wind howled through the cracks, I'd lie awake, imagining what Monica was planning. Her whispers on the phone, her secretive glances, they weren't just cruel. They were calculated. I started to see her not as my son's wife, but as a predator, circling my family, waiting for the right moment to strike. I couldn't let her win, but I had to be smart. Clara's warning echoed in my mind. Monica was dangerous. I had to move carefully, like a hunter stalking prey. I began testing the house for weaknesses, places Monica might not notice me slipping through. The back door had a loose lock. I could jiggle it open with a hairpin when she was asleep. I practiced late at night, moving silently, my heart pounding as I memorized the creaks in the floorboards. I needed access to the attic, to that safe. But Monica's schedule was unpredictable. She'd started staying home more, watching me like a hawk. Once, she caught me lingering near the stairs, and her voice was sharp enough to cut glass. "What are you doing, Evelyn?" I mumbled something about looking for Emma's blanket, but her eyes narrowed, and I knew she didn't believe me. Daniel was no help. He'd become a ghost in his own home, working long hours, coming back exhausted, his eyes hollow. I tried talking to him once, catching him in the kitchen before Monica woke up. "Daniel, we need to talk about her," I whispered, my voice trembling. He frowned, his face closing off. "Mom, don't start. Monica's stressed with the baby. Just give her time." Time. As if time could fix the venom in her heart. I wanted to scream about John's letter, about the forged will, but Clara's words held me back. I needed proof Daniel couldn't ignore. The opportunity came unexpectedly. Monica announced she was visiting her sister for the weekend, leaving Daniel and Emma behind. It was the first time in months she'd be gone overnight. My heart raced with possibility, but I kept my face neutral, nodding as she gave me a list of chores. "Don't touch anything in the house," she said, her eyes boring into mine. I smiled, meek and submissive, but inside, I was counting the hours. As soon as her car disappeared down the street, I grabbed the key and slipped into the house. The attic was a maze of shadows, filled with boxes and old furniture. The safe was hidden behind a stack of crates, its metal surface dulled by dust. My hands shook as I slid the key into the lock. It fit perfectly, clicking open with a soft thud. Inside, I found a small notebook, its pages yellowed but intact. John's handwriting filled every line, detailing Monica's behavior in his final months. He'd written about her impatience, her insistence on handling his medication, her questions about the house's value. There was a receipt to a purchase of a drug I didn't recognize, dated days before his death. I sat back, my breath shallow. This was the proof I needed. But it wasn't enough to confront Monica. I needed to know what she was doing now, how far her plan had gone. I tucked the notebook under my sweater and locked the safe, my mind racing. Downstairs, I heard Daniel playing with Emma, her giggles a stark contrast to the storm in my chest. I wanted to tell him everything, but I couldn't risk it yet. Instead, I called Clara, whispering into the phone from the garage. "I found something," I said. "John's notebook. It's worse than we thought." Clara met me the next day, her face grim as she read through the pages. "This is big, Evelyn," she said. "But we need to connect it to what she's doing now. I've got a lead on Victory's been seen at a warehouse downtown. I'm going to check it out. Stay low until I get back to you." I nodded, but the waiting was torture. I spent the rest of the weekend in the garage, pretending everything was normal, while Monica's absence felt like a ticking clock. When she returned, her smile was sharper, her eyes scanning the house like she knew something was off. That night, I overheard her on the phone again, her voice low but furious. "Victor, you said it would be done by now. I can't keep him in the dark much longer." My stomach churned. Keep him in the dark. "Daniel." I clutched John's notebook, my resolve hardening. I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore, I was fighting for my son. For Emma. For the family I'd built. I started planning my next move. Mapping out every detail. I'd get into Monica's office, where she kept her laptop and files. If there was evidence of her plan with Victor, it would be there. The next chance came a week later. When Monica left for a meeting, she didn't explain. I waited until Daniel was at work and Emma was napping, then slipped into the house. Monica's office was locked, but I'd learned her tricks. A credit card slid between the door and frame popped it open. Inside, her desk was a mess of papers, bills, contracts, and a notebook of her own. I flipped through it, my heart racing. Names, dates, amounts, a plan to sell the house, to move the money offshore. And then, a single line that stopped me cold, accident planned for D. Next month. I froze, my hands trembling. An accident. For Daniel. My vision blurred with tears. But they weren't from sadness, they were from rage. I took photos of the pages with my old flip phone. Every word a nail in Monica's coffin. I didn't hear the front door open. Didn't hear her footsteps until she was in the doorway, her face white with fury. "What the hell are you doing?" she hissed. I turned, the notebook still in my hands. And for the first time, I didn't flinch. "I know what you're planning," I said, my voice steady. "And I'm going to stop you." Monica's eyes widened, a flash of fear crossing her face before it hardened into something colder. She stepped into the office, closing the door behind her with a soft click that felt like a trap snapping shut. "You're out of your depth, Evelyn," she said, her voice low and venomous. "Put that down and get back to your little hovel in the garage." I clutched the notebook tighter, my heart pounding, but my resolve unshaken. For months, I'd let her push me around, let her strip away my dignity. Not anymore. "I know about Victor," I said, watching her flinch. "I know about the money, the forged will, the accident you're planning for Daniel." Her face twisted, a mix of shock and rage. "You're delusional," she spat, but her voice wavered, betraying her. She lunged for the notebook, but I stepped back, holding it out of reach. "I have proof," I said. "John's notebook, your phone calls, your meetings. I'm not the helpless old woman you think I am." For a moment, she froze, her eyes searching mine, calculating. Then she laughed, a sharp, hollow sound. "You think Daniel will believe you? His own mother, sneaking around, spying on me. He'll think you're crazy." She was right to doubt me. Daniel's loyalty to her was a wall I hadn't breached. But I wasn't alone anymore. Clara was out there, digging, building a case that would bury Monica. I just needed to buy time. "Maybe he won't," I said, my voice steady. "But someone else will." Her smile faltered, and I saw the first crack in her armor. She didn't know about Clara, didn't know how close I was to unraveling her. I slipped the notebook into my sweater, turned, and walked out, her glare burning into my back. Back in the garage, I hid the notebook in a box of old clothes, my hands shaking. Monica didn't follow me, but I knew she was watching. The house felt different now, like a battlefield. I called Clara, whispering into the phone, telling her about the notebook and the accident line. She was silent for a moment, then said, "Evelyn, you need to get out of there. She knows you're onto her. It's not safe." But I couldn't leave. Not yet. Daniel and Emma were still in that house, and I wouldn't abandon them. The next few days were a game of cat and mouse. Monica stopped leaving trays of dishes, stopped locking me out, but her silence was worse. She'd watch me from the kitchen window as I moved through the garage, her eyes like daggers. I kept up my routine, pretending nothing had changed. But I was always listening, always watching. I noticed her spending more time in her office, shredding papers, making hushed calls. She was covering her tracks, but she wasn't fast enough. Clara called with an update. She'd followed Victor to the warehouse and found evidence of a money laundering scheme tied to Monica's accounts. "It's bigger than we thought," she said. "They're moving millions. And your house is just a piece of it. I've got enough to go to the police. But we need to protect Daniel first." She was right. Monica's plan was unraveling. But if she felt cornered, she might act sooner. I had to get Daniel out. Get him to see the truth before it was too late. I waited for a moment when Monica was out, then cornered Daniel in the living room. He was holding Emma, her tiny hands grabbing at his shirt. "Daniel," I said, my voice low but urgent. "You need to listen to me. Monica's not who you think she is." He sighed, his face tired. "Mom, please. Not this again." I pulled out John's notebook, holding it out like a shield. "Your father wrote this. He knew something was wrong with her. She's planning to hurt you. Daniel, I have proof." His eyes flickered to the notebook, doubt creeping in. But before he could speak, the front door opened, and Monica's voice cut through the air. "What's going on here?" I froze, the notebook still in my hand. Monica's eyes locked onto it, her face a mask of fury. "Daniel, she's lying," she said, her voice smooth but edged with panic. "She's trying to tear us apart." I saw the conflict in Daniel's eyes, the pull between his wife and his mother. I wanted to scream, to shake him, but I held back. "Read it," I said, pressing the notebook into his hands. "Just read it." Monica lunged, but Daniel stepped back, holding it out of her reach. For the first time, I saw him hesitate, saw the crack in his blind devotion. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on my cot, the garage darker than ever, listening for any sound from the house. I heard raised voices, Daniel and Monica arguing, their words muffled but sharp. My heart ached for him, for the pain of seeing her true face. I wanted to go to him, to hold him like I did when he was small, but I knew he needed to face this on his own. The next morning, he came to the garage, his face pale, his eyes red. "Mom," he said, his voice breaking. "I read it. I don't know what to believe." I took his hand, my own trembling. "You don't have to believe me yet," I said, "but let me show you." I told him about Clara, about the photos, the bank statements, the plan to sell the house. I showed him the photos I'd taken of Monica's notebook. His face crumpled, the weight of it all crashing down. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" he whispered. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "I tried, but I needed you to see it for yourself." He nodded, tears in his eyes. And for the first time in months, I felt like I had my son back. Daniel's tears were a knife to my heart, but they were also a spark of hope. For the first time, he was listening, really listening, and I could see the cracks in the wall Monica had built around him. But we weren't safe yet. Monica was still in the house, still scheming, and now she knew I was fighting back. I could feel her presence like a storm cloud, heavy and ready to break. "We need to be careful," I told Daniel, my voice low. "She's not going to let this go." He nodded, his jaw tight, but I saw the fear in his eyes. He was starting to see her for what she was. But love doesn't unravel that easily. I called Clara from the garage, keeping my voice hushed. "He's starting to believe me," I said. "But Monica's onto us. What's next?" Clara's tone was urgent. "I've got enough to go to the police. But we need to get you and Daniel out of that house. She's desperate now. And desperate people do stupid things. She told me to meet her at the diner again. To bring Daniel and Emma, if I could. We'll figure out the next steps together. She said. I agreed. But the thought of leaving the house felt like abandoning John's memory. Convincing Daniel was harder than I expected. He was torn. His loyalty to Monica fraying, but not broken. What if we're wrong? He asked. His voice raw. What if this is all a misunderstanding? I wanted to shake him. To scream that his wife had planned his death. But I kept my voice steady. Daniel, I love you. I've always protected you. Trust me now. I showed him the photos again. The line about the accident burning into his mind. He looked at Emma, asleep in her crib, and something shifted in him. Okay, he said finally. I'll come with you. We planned to leave the next morning. When Monica was at her yoga class, I packed a small bag in the garage, hiding it under the cot. I included John's notebook, the key, and the photos I'd taken. Daniel promised to pack for himself and Emma, keeping it quiet. But that night, I heard footsteps outside the garage, slow and deliberate. I froze, my heart pounding. The door creaked open, and Monica stood there, her silhouette sharp against the moonlight. You think you're clever, she said, her voice dripping with venom. But you're not taking my family. I stood, my back straight, refusing to cower. It's over. Monica, I said. Daniel knows. The police will know soon, too. Her eyes flashed, and for a moment, I thought she might lunge at me. But she just smiled, cold and calculating. We'll see about that, she said, then turned and left. The door slammed shut, and I heard the lock click. She'd trapped me in the garage. Panic clawed at me, but I forced it down. I had to get to Daniel. Had to warn him. I grabbed a screwdriver from a toolbox and worked at the lock, my hands shaking. It took agonizing minutes, but it finally gave way. I slipped into the house, moving silently. The living room was dark, but I heard voices from the kitchen. Monica's, low and urgent, and Daniel's, sharp with anger. I crept closer, hiding behind the doorway. You're being paranoid, Monica was saying. Your mother's lost it. Daniel. She's trying to ruin us. I peeked around the corner and saw him holding John's notebook, his face torn. Then explain this, he said, his voice breaking. Monica's face twisted, but she didn't back down. She's manipulating you, she said. She's always been jealous of me. I couldn't stay silent. I stepped into the kitchen, my voice steady. Tell him about Victor. Monica. Tell him about the accident you're planning. Daniel's eyes snapped to me, then back to her. Monica laughed, but it was forced, brittle. She's delusional, she said. But Daniel wasn't listening to her anymore. He turned to me, his voice quiet. Mom, what do we do? I took a deep breath, my mind racing. We leave. Now. I grabbed Emma's diaper bag while Daniel scooped her up, still half asleep. Monica lunged for him, but he pushed past her, his face set. We made it to the car, my heart pounding as I glanced back at the house. Monica stood in the doorway, her eyes burning with rage. I knew she wouldn't let us go easily, but we had no choice. We drove to the diner, where Clara was waiting. She took one look at Daniel's face and nodded. Let's end this, she said. Clara laid out the plan. She'd take the evidence, John's notebook, the photos, the bank records, to a detective she trusted. Daniel and I would stay at a motel, out of Monica's reach, until the police could act. Emma slept in my arms, her warmth grounding me. But I couldn't shake the feeling that Monica was still one step ahead. That night, in the motel, I lay awake, listening to every creak, every car passing by. Daniel was silent, staring at the ceiling, grappling with the betrayal. "I'm sorry, Mom," he whispered finally. "I should have listened." I squeezed his hand, tears in my eyes. "We're together now," I said. "That's what matters." The motel room smelled of stale coffee and cheap air freshener, but it was a sanctuary compared to the garage. Emma slept in a portable crib, her soft breaths a reminder of why I was fighting. Daniel sat on the edge of the bed, his head in his hands, the weight of Monica's betrayal crushing him. I wanted to comfort him, to tell him it would be okay. But the truth was, we weren't out of danger. Monica was still out there, and I knew she wouldn't let go without a fight. Clara had promised the police would move quickly, but every hour felt like a lifetime. Clara called the next morning, her voice tight. "The detective's on board," she said. "They're pulling Monica's financials and tracking Victor. But Evelyn, she's gone quiet. No calls. No activity. That's not good." My stomach twisted. Monica wasn't the type to give up. She was planning something. I looked at Daniel, his face pale, and made a decision. "We need to go back to the house," I said. He looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "Mom, are you crazy? She could be there." But I shook my head. "If she's planning something, the evidence is in that house. We need to find it before she destroys it." Clara agreed to meet us there, bringing a police officer for backup. We left Emma with a trusted neighbor, a woman I'd known for years, and drove back to the house. It loomed in the morning light, its familiar outline now menacing. The front door was unlocked, which set my nerves on edge. Inside, the house was eerily quiet, papers scattered across the living room floor. Monica had been here, and she'd been in a hurry. Clara and the officer, a gruff man named Detective Harris, swept through the rooms, while I led Daniel to Monica's office. The desk was a mess, drawers yanked open, files missing. But I noticed something, a small USB drive tucked under a stack of papers. I grabbed it, my hands trembling, and handed it to Clara. She plugged it into her laptop, her face grim as files loaded. Bank transfers, emails, a detailed plan to stage Daniel's accident as a car crash. My knees buckled, but Daniel caught me, his own face pale. "She was really going to do it," he whispered, his voice breaking. Detective Harris nodded. "This is enough for an arrest," he said. "But we need to find her." As if on cue, we heard a car engine outside. I peered through the window and saw Monica's car pulling into the driveway. My heart raced. She wasn't supposed to be here. Clara grabbed my arm. "Stay calm," she whispered. "Let Harris handle this." But Monica didn't come inside. Instead, she opened the trunk, pulling out a gas can. My blood ran cold. "She's going to burn it," I said, my voice shaking. "The evidence, the house, everything." Daniel moved toward the door, but Harris stopped him. "Stay here," he said, drawing his gun. Harris slipped outside, moving silently, while Clara called for backup. I watched through the window, my heart in my throat, as Monica doused the porch with gasoline. She hadn't seen Harris yet, her movements frantic, her face twisted with desperation. I wanted to run out, to stop her, but Clara held me back. "Let the police do their job," she said. Harris crept closer, his voice sharp as he shouted, "Monica, drop the can." She froze, the can slipping from her hands. splashing gasoline across the steps. For a moment, I thought she'd run, but Harris was on her, cuffing her hands behind her back. Monica's screams echoed as Harris led her to the patrol car that had just arrived. "You don't understand," she shouted. "This was mine. I earned it." I watched, numb, as she was driven away. Daniel stood beside me, his face a mask of pain. "It's over," he said, but it didn't feel over. The house, my home, was still standing, but it was tainted now, soaked in betrayal. Clara put a hand on my shoulder. "You did it, Evelyn. You saved him." But the victory felt hollow. I'd saved my son, but at what cost? We spent the rest of the day with the police, going through the evidence. The USB drive was a gold mine enough to charge Monica with fraud, conspiracy, and attempted murder. Victor was picked up later that day, his own crimes spilling out under pressure. But as the police worked, I wandered the house, touching the walls, the furniture, the memories. This was where John and I had danced in the kitchen, where Daniel had taken his first steps. Monica had tried to erase it all, but she'd failed. That night, Daniel and I sat in the living room, Emma asleep in his arms. "I'm so sorry, Mom," he said again, his voice thick with guilt. I let her blind me. I took his hand, my own eyes stinging. "You loved her," I said. "That's not a crime. But you're here now, and we'll rebuild." He nodded, tears falling. And for the first time in months, I felt the weight of the garage lift from my shoulders. Clara stayed with us, helping us sort through the aftermath. The house was ours again, but it would take time to make it a home. I thought of John, of his letter, his warning. He'd trusted me to protect our family, and I had. But the scars remained, etched into every corner of this place. As I looked at Daniel, holding Emma, I knew the fight wasn't over. We had to heal, to find a way forward. And I would be there, every step of the way, no longer a shadow in my own home. The days after Monica's arrest were a blur of police interviews, paperwork, and quiet moments where Daniel and I tried to piece ourselves back together. The house felt too big, too empty, its walls echoing with the ghosts of what had been. I moved out of the garage, back into my old room. But sleep didn't come easily. Every creak of the floorboards made me jump, expecting Monica's shadow in the doorway. Daniel was worse off, his eyes haunted, his laughter gone. Emma was the only light, her giggles a reminder that we had something worth fighting for. Clara became our anchor, stopping by daily with updates on the case. Monica was being held without bail, her lies unraveling faster than she could spin them. Victor had turned on her, spilling details of their scheme in exchange for a lighter sentence. The police found more evidence: text messages, hidden accounts, even a burner phone Monica had stashed in the attic. Each revelation was a knife to Daniel's heart, but it was also a step toward closure. "She never loved me," he said one night, his voice hollow. I didn't know what to say, so I just held his hand, letting the silence speak. I started cleaning the house, not just the mess Monica had left, but the years of neglect. I scrubbed the floors, painted over her garish colors, and brought out old photos of John and Daniel. The house began to feel like mine again, but the scars were deep. I found myself lingering in the garage, not out of necessity, but out of habit, as if part of me was still trapped there. One afternoon, Daniel found me there, staring at the cot. "Mom," he said, his voice soft, "you don't have to stay here anymore." I nodded, tears in my eyes, and let him lead me back inside. The legal process was grueling. Monica's lawyer tried to paint me as a vindictive mother-in-law, twisting my actions into paranoia. But John's notebook, the USB drive, and Clara's evidence were undeniable. The trial date was set for 3 months out, and Clara warned us it would be brutal. She'll fight dirty, she said. But we've got the truth on our side. I clung to that. But I also knew the truth couldn't erase the pain. Daniel was struggling, blaming himself for letting Monica into our lives. I blamed myself, for giving her the house, for trusting her. One evening, as I rocked Emma to sleep, I realized we needed more than justice. We needed redemption, a way to heal the wounds Monica had left. I started small, cooking family dinners like I used to, inviting old friends over to fill the house with laughter. Daniel began to open up, talking about his childhood, his memories of John. We went through old photo albums, laughing and crying, rebuilding the bond Monica had tried to break. It wasn't easy some nights. Daniel would shut down, his guilt too heavy, but we kept going, step by step. Clara suggested therapy, and though Daniel resisted at first, he eventually agreed. We found a counselor who specialized in family trauma, and those sessions became a lifeline. I talked about the garage, the humiliation, the fear. Daniel talked about his blindness, his love for Monica, his shame. The counselor helped us see that we weren't just victims who were survivors, fighting for each other. Emma, too young to understand, was our reason to keep going, her innocence a balm for our wounds. As the trial approached, I started preparing myself for the courtroom. I wanted to face Monica, to look her in the eyes and show her she hadn't broken me. Clara helped me practice my testimony, going over every detail of John's letter, the notebook, the garage. "You're stronger than you know," she said, and for the first time, I believed her. I wasn't just Evelyn, the mother-in-law banished to the garage. I was Evelyn Carter, the woman who'd built this family, who'd fought for it, who'd won. The night before the trial, Daniel and I sat in the living room, the house quiet except for Emma's soft snores. "I don't know how to do this," he admitted, his voice small. Seeing her again, hearing her lies. I took his hand, my own steady now. "You don't have to do it alone," I said. "We're in this together." He nodded, a flicker of his old strength returning. We stayed up late, talking about the future, about fixing the house, raising Emma, finding joy again. It was the first time I felt like we could move forward, not just survive. The morning of the trial, I woke early, my heart heavy but resolute. I dressed carefully, choosing a simple blue dress that John had always loved. I looked at myself in the mirror, seeing not just the lines of age but the strength in my eyes. I was ready. Daniel drove us to the courthouse, his hands tight on the wheel. Clara met us there, her face calm but determined. "This is it," she said. "Let's finish it." As we walked into the courtroom, I felt John's presence, his love guiding me. Monica was about to face justice, and I was ready to reclaim my family, one truth at a time. The courtroom was cold, the kind of sterile chill that seeps into your bones. Monica sat at the defense table, her face a mask of composure, but I could see the tension in her jaw, the way her hands twitched. She didn't look at me, not at first, but I stared at her, willing her to feel the weight of what she'd done. Daniel sat beside me, his hand gripping mine. Emma's safe with our neighbor. Clara was there, too, her folder of evidence ready, her eyes sharp. The judge called the room to order, and the trial began, each word a step toward justice. The prosecution laid out the case methodically: John's notebook, the USB drive, the bank records, Victor's testimony. Monica's lawyer tried to spin it, claiming I'd fabricated everything out of jealousy. But the evidence was a mountain they couldn't climb. When I took the stand, my voice was steady, my words clear. I told the story of the garage, of John's letter, of Monica's cruelty. I didn't look at her, not wanting her to see my pain, only my strength. The jury listened, their faces unreadable, but I felt their attention, their belief. Monica's testimony was a performance, tears and all, but it cracked under cross-examination. She couldn't explain the notebook, the emails, the gas can. When the prosecution played a recorded call between her and Victor, her voice cold and calculating, the room went silent. Daniel's grip on my hand tightened, his breath hitching. I wanted to shield him, but he needed to hear it, to know the truth. The jury deliberated for only a day before returning guilty on all charges. Monica's face crumpled as the verdict was read, and for the first time, she looked at me, her eyes filled with hate. I didn't flinch. The sentence came a week later, 15 years, with no chance of parole for 10. Monica was led away, her defiance gone, her shoulders slumped. Daniel and I walked out of the courthouse into the sunlight, the weight of the past months lifting slightly. Clara hugged us both, her smile tired but genuine. "You did it," she said. "You took her down." But it wasn't just about taking Monica down, it was about saving my family, about reclaiming what was ours. Back at the house, we began the slow work of healing. Daniel sold his car, using the money to fix the damage Monica had done. New paint, new furniture, new memories. I turned the garage into a workshop, a place to create, not hide. Emma's laughter filled the house, her tiny footsteps a melody we'd almost lost. Daniel started smiling again, small at first, then brighter, like the boy I'd raised. We talked about John, about the good times. And slowly, the pain began to fade, replaced by hope. I started writing again, something I hadn't done since John died. I wrote about the house, about love and betrayal, about the strength I'd found in the dark. Daniel read my words, tears in his eyes, and said, "You should publish this, Mom. People need to hear it." I wasn't sure, but the idea took root. Maybe my story could help someone else, someone trapped in their own garage, fighting for their family. One evening, as the sun set, Daniel and I sat on the porch, Emma playing in the grass. The house glowed behind us, warm and alive again. "I'm sorry I let it get so bad," Daniel said, his voice soft. I shook my head, touching his cheek. "You loved her. And you love us. That's enough." He smiled, a real smile, and I felt John's presence, his pride in us both. We'd lost so much, but we'd gained something, to a bond forged in fire, unbreakable. Clara visited often, becoming part of our family. She helped us navigate the legal fallout, ensuring Monica's schemes were fully dismantled. The house was ours again, free and clear, and we made it a home. I planted flowers in the garden, the same ones John had loved. Daniel started a small business, something to keep him grounded, to give him a future. And I kept writing, pouring my heart onto the page, finding redemption in every word. Months later, I stood in the kitchen, cooking dinner, the smell of rosemary and garlic filling the air. Daniel was setting the table, Emma babbling in her high chair. The doorbell rang, and Clara walked in, holding a bottle of wine. "To new beginnings," she said, raising it. We laughed, clinked glasses, and for the first time in years, I felt whole. The garage was behind me. Monica was behind us, and the future was ours. I looked at my son, my granddaughter, my friend, and knew I'd fought for this moment. And I'd fight again, if I had to, for the family I loved, For the home we'd reclaimed. For the life we'd built from the ashes.